When I'm not just hanging out in crowded places and airdropping my original music to anybody that shows up, I like to answer questions and comments that I get on YouTube, so let's get to it. Often imitated but never duplicated, can you do a video of percussive double stops pulling off to open strings and everything ringing out? I met a cool dude and we went to watch him play. When he did his hand-around pull-offs, 30 of his friends in attendance all burst into applause. I'm guessing he did it in D or G, and I believe he moved around the neck as well. Pull-offs to open strings are very cool, and you're the perfect person to lead the world and shape the future of humanity with better Jack guitar jam mounts. I think you're right. I'm the perfect person to lead humanity into the lightness, out of the darkness. And the quickest way to come out of the darkness is just double stops. Just kind of messing around in really any key. We're gonna do it in people's key, like we've been doing it the last couple weeks, key of G. And this does kind of piggyback off a lesson that I did maybe like a month ago, where I was talking about thinking of scales in courses of 2 strings each, all right? So if you've never played a double stop before, all a double stop is when you play 2 notes at the same time. So again, a chord is technically 3 different notes, but these are almost kind of like mini chords that you can kind of like just make sound pretty cool very, very easily, I would say, right? Because I think the easiest shape chord when you first start off, let's be real, is probably E minor, right? So what we're gonna do is basically just take that E minor shape and just move it all throughout the entire D string, a D and G string, and then just start to incorporate it into different stuff. So just to play a quick example of something that we're going to be talking about that might be complicated, might not be complicated depending on where you are, would sound like this. However you want to end it, right? So all I'm doing is I'm really taking 2 chords. That was an E minor chord, like this. You could play an open E minor if you want, but we're gonna get to this chord shape in a second. And a G major chord. Again, you can always play an open G major, but I think jumping back and forth between fretted chords and open strings that ring out just kind of has a more controllable sound when you're actually working on the fretted chords, right? You have a lot of control over it. So let's talk about just all the double stops that we can do along the D and the G strings in this key, which is really, really easy. We're thinking about this in the key of G, all right? So open D and G, easiest way to start out. Then we just go to the 2nd fret of both of those. 4th fret, 5th fret. It's funny, I can't not put the vibrato on there. So open 2, 4, 5, 7, 9. The beautiful thing about this key is like those odd numbered inlays and dots, usually starting at 5, 5, 7, 9. That's the money spot. You'll see that I'm doing it with just my pointer finger, kind of barring both of them. Again, feel free to use that E minor shape, however you want to make it. And then we're gonna end up on 12 and 12, which is the octave of where we started, but there is this one tricky one right in between, right? So for the 10th fret on the D string, the 11th fret on the G string, we have that flat 5. Okay, so all together what we have are open and open, 2 and 2, 4 and 4, 5 and 5, 7 and 7, 9 and 9, 10 and 11, 12 and 12. Okay, so this is a great time to mention this video is sponsored by Sweetwater, and the reason this guitar sounds so good is because I'm running it through some IK Multimedia pedals. Right now I'm just going through their X-Bass Reverb pedal. I'm going to talk more about this, answering a question on some of the original music I posted earlier in the week. So I'm going to talk about these pedals a little more in depth later, but I wanted to just kind of get that out of the way first because, again, Sweetwater is the best place to get your gear. So regardless of what you're getting, use that Sweetwater affiliate link in the description to check it out, because I think these pedals, this guitar, this amp all sound really great, right? So now that we know this is almost like a little scale where everything is fair game, we can throw that in between some of the chords and do little double stop E runs. Now we know that open and open is always going to sound good, so we can maybe take this and kind of just lift your fingers off, right? So I'm on the 7th fret right now. I can kind of leave the string like that and then kind of jump around. Now, if you've watched any of the other videos, we talk a lot about relative minor, okay? Skipping all over the place, talking a lot of different music theory, just stuff that's gonna sound good. The reason I went from E minor to G major, I almost think those are just two of the main 6 chords in the key. E minor is really important in the key of G, just because that's where the minor scale is, right? If you don't know that, don't worry about it. You don't even have to know all the music theory to get something from this lesson. But if we have those two chords, E minor and G, like I was playing earlier, we can just run in between. So right there, I just played the two chords. You don't even have, there it is. You don't even have to put like a rhythm on it. Just strum it, and then just kind of explore. I'm just running between the 5th, 7th, and 9th frets. Always sounds good. Put a little spice on it, put a little vibrato on it, right? Now, another thing that I like to do in this style, and then I've done it in some of my songs actually, is maybe come back to that open E string a lot, almost as like a, I don't want to say a drone, but you're just kind of pivoting on this E note, playing it almost percussively where you're keeping a rhythm. So you can kind of hear that. Right? You kind of just jump back and forth between it. Now you can do that with any of the notes in this key and it'll sound really cool. One thing you might want to do is like, let's just kind of focus in on that 7, 8, 9 spot again. And let's hear how it sounds over different root notes, right? We could go like, or maybe this be it. See, I'm just kind of jumping back and forth. A. You can do that reach right there. Or, again, we do C. Again, there's a lot of different ways that you can get creative just by using just a few of the simpler double stops in here. Now, another thing to do that if you don't, if you want to kind of maybe switch it up instead of just getting these kind of little coupled notes here, maybe get a different type of flavor of a double stop. The thing to remember is, and again we're just going to focus on these spots right here, is if 5 and 5 are notes I can use, and 7 and 7 are notes I can use any combination of those at the same time. It doesn't have to be 5 and 5, it could be 5 and 7. Or it could be 7 and 5. So we've got, there's really kind of like 4 different little things that we can use here. 5, 5, 7, 7. And again, you can throw that in with that low E string. So again, there's a lot of like creativity, I think, that just comes from sliding around through these double stops, all right? Now, you might be like, all right, well, that's cool, but what if I don't play stuff in that key? Well, the same kind of pattern is going to exist throughout the fretboard in different keys. Well, one thing is, all right, like if you like the sound of maybe this E string going like that, well, you can go a little bit lower and then actually tune down and get kind of the same idea. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take this D, use it as a reference to kind of get this down to like a drop D, right? Which I'm sure you've seen probably drop D stuff a lot. If we're thinking of the key of D minor, or even D major, we can do 2 different ways of finding the same double stops, okay? So I'm gonna go through D minor first because it just is a little bit easier to talk about because there's only 1 flat. It has B flat in it as a note. So right off the bat, it's like, there's A sharp, B flat. But if we still think of the A and the D string in there, we can start kind of combining a lot of those different shapes, right? So we've got here, right off the bat. But then, as soon as we get into some of the other chords and stuff, then we go here, here. And again, you can think of these as like power chords. Like this would be F, and it's power chord under, it's 5th below. F, G, A, B flat, C, D, back to F. So now any of these are going to work over that, which again is like super, super cool stuff that you can always do, right? Like, and again, I just think it's like a lot of fun just exploring the fretboard in different ways, especially with cool effects on, right? You can even put like some sick delay on. So I just think that seeing that as a course of 2 strings and being able to kind of come off into the open and moving your way around the neck that way is a super valuable thing that you're going to want to have under your belt.
Can you teach trying to be funny is spoiling it? You're not funny, it's an instinct, you can't fake it.
Ever since man was evolving from his caveman predecessors, the instinct of pure comedy was something that could not be learned. You're either born with the instinct to hate on people on the internet, or you're not. Cannot be learned. Effects? Nice song. Thank you very much. So the other day I posted an original song, and it was primarily an acoustic guitar song with kind of like a electric lead. And the way that I got that sound for the guitar is actually just these 2 pedals right here, right? So it's kind of like a... It sounds so good with like a cool delay and reverb type thing. So that's where these X time and X space pedals came in really cool. The nice thing about these IK Multimedia pedals, and what I used on the vocal too in that song, and a little bit on the acoustic guitar, is once you've recorded everything else, they actually come with the plug-in version of the pedal. So you can actually have the exact same settings for everything, but instead of using it on something that had to run through the physical pedal itself, you can actually do it after the fact, and you can save your settings on each one of the pedals and then put them into like a DAW or something afterwards. So that way it's like one thing that I learned just through a lot of trial and error is I love the sound of different reverbs so much, but sometimes I would always go overboard with it. So like if I had a big mix, I would have 1 reverb on the vocals, 1 reverb on the acoustic guitars, 1 reverb on the electric guitars, so on and so forth. But the cool thing about this is you can kind of mess around with it in real time, but then after the fact still use the exact same reverb, so everything kind of sounds like it's in the same space. And I do feel like that has improved the recordings actually pretty dramatically. So yeah, thank you to everybody who's been watching those videos. I got some more on the way that I'm going to use these pedals for. But it's actually just like a combination of the line out from the amp, because the pedals are going in front of the amp. Combo the line out from the amp, and also miking the amp with Neumann KM184, which I've gotten really good results at. So again, all this stuff is going to be listed in an affiliate link below, taking you to Sweetwater. Again, shout out to Sweetwater for being so good to me over the last year or so, and really kind of helped me out with a lot of the stuff that I have going on. But yeah, essentially it's really just kind of messing with these effects and stuff beforehand, and then I have to do a lot less mixing later, just like some simple EQ and stuff that I'm doing, and just kind of like bus compressors and stuff. But that's pretty much it, and I talk about those in other videos too, so definitely please watch the recent videos, and if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them in a more in-depth way if you have something specific that you want me to talk about. Ever so slowly you become more and more irrelevant. Goodbye, sinking ship. And God bless all who drank from Sean Daniels' furry cup. I salute you, sir. Is it furry cup? Is this like low-key saying that I'm like a furry or something? I'll be the first to admit I don't really know a lot about furry culture, but I think that's an insult, right? And why exactly is the ship sinking? Is the furry activity one of the reasons that the ship is sinking? But anyways, I salute you too, because as captain of this ship, I will go down with it, furry and all. Wonder if you could make a video outlining all the little chord variations, fills, and strumming technique used at 4045, and then take a fairly straightforward progression to the next level. Yeah, so the chord progression and strumming pattern that he's talking about sounds kind of like this. So I think if we're talking about the strumming pattern first, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 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 right? Counting it is kind of hard. It is one of those things you have to feel it, which is more like that's not helpful to a lot of people. A lot of people, you kind of need the count. So if we really slow it down, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. If we think of it as like a 2-bar pattern, it's really something that I've learned from playing solo or acoustic duo shows the entire time, playing without a drummer, is you kind of gotta like, sounds kind of cool with the delay and the reverb on there. You kind of gotta keep some kind of percussive thing going on. So a great way to practice that is just muted. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you'll notice the 3 gets a little heavier accent, which would be where a snare drum would be. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Right? If we just kept it super steady, and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So in a 2-bar pattern like that, you know, the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, the and of 1 and the and of 2 are 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. The and of 4 and the and of 1 for the next bar actually are those upstrokes, because again, the way that I'm strumming it is every downbeat is a downstroke. The word and in between is going to be an upstroke. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? Those are the accents. The 3 in both bars, the and of 4 in the first bar and the and of 1 in the second bar. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if you just keep it going like that, right? Keeping the time with my hand, and then really just focusing on just the 1 in the first bar, the 1 and the 3 and the and of 4 in that first bar, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then continuing over the bar line into the and of 1 in the next one, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 then thinking almost how a drummer would think of like maybe ghost notes, just kind of like really hitting that chord but maybe not hitting the full chord, doing it a little more dynamically. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Right? So when I go to that A minor 11 technically, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Now I'm really kind of like front loading that next bar, because again, leaving space in a bar, even if you're still hitting the notes, is super important, because you're almost kind of like simulating space and you're really opening up the strumming progression for an entire chord progression, right? So I'm still playing the count. I'm just really playing it kind of soft enough where like maybe you're not even hearing it, maybe I'm not even feeling it, but I'm doing the action with my hand to actually get it so it's in time. And you can kind of hear the count now with, like, I'll count it first and then I won't count it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So by the time I get to that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, I'm switching chords early. That example, again, it doesn't have to be this example, this could just be general strumming advice. That A minor 11 to this G 7, 9 or whatever this is to G major, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's why I kind of really like strumming with my fingers more on like electric guitar, because you have a little bit more dynamic room to play with, because again, it's amplified, especially if you're using a compressor pedal. I'm kicking myself for not bringing a compressor pedal to Austin, Texas with me, by the way, but you just get a little more play because I've got like my thumb. See, I'm kind of like the thumb kind of takes over part of it, and it kind of trades off between your pointer finger. It's a little more control you have over just having like a pick, kind of getting your fingers involved. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't practice fingerstyle like stuff. So definitely, it's a lot of stuff to work on over time, but I think it's good to just kind of like understand where the counting comes from, and usually that'll help a lot of people out. So for listening homework, I'm going to throw you to an artist called Bayonne, who is local here in Austin, Texas, and slays it. Really kind of checking out his stuff recently. Also, thank you to Sweetwater and IK Multimedia for sending over the pedals. Definitely please throw them just a look. Check out some of the links below. If you're buying anything, get it from Sweetwater because it really helps me out. And if you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, Twitter, or the website. I'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks a lot.